Hey Jake,
Yeah?
what's a snake's favorite subject at school?
I don't know what.
History.
I like math.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engage, a family gaming podcast. This is episode 159, and I am your host, Stephen Dutzman. As always, this is the official video game and board game podcast for EngageFamilyGaming.com. EFG is a website where parents like myself and my co-hosts come together to give parents and families the information they need to get their family game on. This week is a very special week. It's the beginning of a new era. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. But first, I am joined by our managing editor of board games. Yes, I promoted her because everything's made up around here. It's Linda Roble. How are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing great.
Good to hear. How are the renovations going?
It's coming along. There is flooring. I can't walk on it right now because the polyurethane is wet, but progress is coming. It's coming right along. Good progress.
The question is it going to be done in time for me to come to your house and play Anthem for 72 hours with your husband at the end of February?
End of February, it should be all set for you.
Good. That's really all I care about. Also joining us is a new permanent co-host. That's both brands of our podcast, and that is Amanda Farough. How are you, Amanda?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. So this is a new little experiment. Go figure, I said permanent, and she's like, I don't know if I really want to do this with you all the time. But so this is a partnership between my site and yours. Why don't you introduce yourself to our adoring public and tell us why you're here?
Okay. I'm Amanda. I'm the managing editor of superparent.com. Been doing this now. I've been a game journalist now for almost a decade. It'll be a decade next year, I guess. Wow. 2020 will be 10 years as a game journalist. So Steve and I have been friends for about a year now. And I have been angling for a way for us to work together. And for whatever reason, I just can't make it gel with Super Parent. So I was like, you know what? We need a media partnership of some kind. And I want to work with you. And I love podcasting. So how can we make this work? So Steve invited me onto the podcast. And I'm like, awesome. I love board games. And I love video games. And I love kids and being a parent. And I can do this. This sounds awesome. So that's why I'm here.
Fair enough. And yeah, she kept trying me to work with her, and I was like, you can just work with me. Because ultimately I am in charge. And it's just easier for me to sign off on bringing more people on. And I knew you wouldn't mind, Linda. Because it means that I won't ever need to ever even think about asking you to come on a video game podcast, because I know how well that would go.
Hey, I did one. It wasn't that bad.
You did one. You did great. I don't even remember what we talked about, but it was fine. Okay, so before we get too much further, obviously, Linda's here. We know we're talking about board games. Specifically, we're going to be talking about our favorite games of 2018. I think between the three of us, we played a lot of board games in 2018, so we'll have plenty to talk about. But before we do that, I do want to take a minute to thank you for listening. We hope the games you've been playing have been great. We do want to make our podcast as interactive as possible, so please feel free to reach out to us on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/EngageFamilyGaming or EngageFamilyGaming.com/Facebook, because we're fancy, and leave us a message and give us your topic ideas, your questions, your concerns, your feedback. I promise you that we will look over all those things. Can't promise we'll take the feedback, though, because I'm stubborn. So our, like I said, our topic this week are our board games of 2018. But before we do that, I want to go around the horn, as usual. I have not played many board games recently because I have been playing too much Super Smash Brothers. But I do want to talk about a board game-ish thing, and that is that I got the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica Dungeons & Dragons book, and I feel like the biggest dork on earth right now, and I'm so happy. Do you know that this is a thing, Amanda? I know you know it is a thing. Do you know what this thing is?
I mean, I do and I don't. I don't know what it means to you.
Okay. So, for those that do not know what it is, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, this is how dorky this is, right? And I mean this in the most loving way. You know that because I said it about myself. It is a Dungeons & Dragons source book about a world that Magic the Gathering sets are set in. That's actually a grammatically correct sentence. It's really awkward. I feel like Amanda is editing me right now.
No.
Okay, good.
I'm off the clock.
You're off the clock. Okay. Just wait until tomorrow. I'll get a message on Discord. So Ravnica is it's a world in the Magic the Gathering universe. It's their most popular one. Every time they go back to that world and release a set there, everybody gets super excited. There's a bunch of reasons why. We'll talk about it in card game content down the road because I don't want to put Amanda and Linda to sleep. But it's a very big deal. And for a while, they were actually putting out free PDFs to go along with sets. So they were putting out, there was one for Kaladesh, and it was super. They were cool.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yes, they were doing it for a while. They did one for Kaladesh. They did one for the horror one. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, which is really kind of sad. And I think it makes total sense that the first time they would put it in a hardcover book and charge people money for it is Ravnica, because dorks like me will buy it. The good news is...
Wizards knows what's up.
They know. I mean, listen, they know how to get money from dorks. They've been doing it a long time.
Sure, they keep taking my money, too.
Yeah, exactly. So the cool thing about Ravnica is it's all built around guilds, which are we all know what guilds are, but all of them are super thematic and really interesting. So this book has the statistics for the big named NPCs in those guilds and how to be a member of that guild. And I thought it was going to be a whole bunch of tables and a whole bunch of charts of this is what this particular class would be in that, and it's really not. It's a lot more just role-playing guidelines and storytelling tools, which, as someone who is moving from being a traditional Dungeons & Dragons player into the modern world of tabletop games, storytelling is far more important than statistics. And I really was kind of interested to find that they took stuff from a card game, which is really statistics and chunky and, and gave us story to tell, which is really interesting. It's not super cheap, but it's a really good book. If you play Magic and you play Dungeons & Dragons, you probably already bought this. If you somehow didn't know this exists, it's on Amazon right now. It's like $30, and it is worth a read.
That's not bad.
It's really not bad. The art is also really awesome. So even if you really just like wacky fantasy art, it's probably worth it maybe when it's on sale later on.
Even if you like tangentially Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons related things.
I don't know if you have zero interest. Like if I'm literally putting you to sleep right now, maybe it's not worth your money. But down the road, it's certainly interesting. And Linda, you can just borrow mine. It's fine. You can look at it if you want to see if you want to see wacky fantasy art. So that I guess that is the board game stuff I have been doing. It's spoiler season for the next Magic set, so I've been dealing with that too. So I know that you two have played a lot of board games. Amanda, you're the new person on the block. Why don't you tell us about a game?
Okay. I've been playing a lot of games because that's what I do. So my big thing that I've been playing lately with the kids is we started playing Kids on Bikes. It's their first RPG. They've never played a role-playing game before. And my kids range from 6 to 14. So there's a lot to manage in there. I have 4 kids. So it's a lot. And they're all enamored with the storytelling because it's wholly collaborative. You sit down, you define the world together, you define the characters together, you roll to figure out your relationships with one another because it's the backbone of Kids on Bikes, because you're zooming around your little town, like small town USA, and you're solving mysteries together. So we haven't played our first session yet, but we went and we did all of our world building together a couple weeks ago, and it was just, it was so satisfying. It was so much fun to engage my children's creativity like that. It was a blast. I can't wait to go back and play like our first official session of Kids on Bikes.
So Kids on Bikes is Goonies /It/Stranger Things.
Yeah, for sure. So we're in like a more modern setting because the kids probably don't have the context to go back to like the late 80s and the early 90s, which is where I would have wanted it to be set. But they're like, we're not dependent on technology or whatever. That's kind of the core tenet of Kids on Bikes, is that nothing travels, or like very little travels by technology. It's all word of mouth. It's a small town. There are rumors. There are things that you need to consider when you're talking to people, like what's their relationship with other people and things like that. So that kind of creativity and getting the kids involved in the world building is just so satisfying. I've just, oh man, just thinking about it just makes me smile.
That sounds awesome. I mean, the only other role-playing game that I've ever played where like the players really got involved in the relationship building and all that. The only game I ever played like that was a tabletop role-playing game where everyone is professional wrestlers.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like fun.
Oh, it's just absolutely insane, but you really need to play it with people who are all in. Because
awesome.
You have to decide, are you a heel, are you a face, and all that, and so and you have to decide like your relationship, and then the dungeon master is booking pay-per-views, and that's what they're doing,
hilarious.
And it's insane. Linda's just rolling her eyes at me like, that sounds a tabletop role playing about pro wrestling, huh, Steve? That's like the most you thing there has ever been, and
at least it's not GURPS.
It's not. No, it's its own system. It's got its own stuff. It's crazy.
Wow.
I played it with the game. I played it with the Games with Jobs crew when I went to RabbitCon a few years ago.
Oh, cool.
And it was insane because some of those people like really get into it. And man, it was. I was at a disadvantage because I didn't know any of them as well as they knew each other. So, man, it was crazy. But anyway, so the world building was as much a game as actually playing it.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's Kids on Bikes in a nutshell. The world building is as much a part of the experience as anything else. Like there's a big chunk of the book that's dedicated just to, hey, this is how you roll on a relationship table, and there are 3 tables that you roll on. So you either know a character or you don't. And you either have a positive relationship with them or a negative relationship with them if you do. So you roll on this table and then you just ask each other questions based on that roll. So it's neat. It's super cool. Somebody can have a positive relationship with a character and that character can have a negative perspective of them. And, it's an enriching conversation about what goes into creating a good story.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, like starting, no mechanics, nothing like that. We're just gonna get on our bikes and we're gonna go. I'm pretty excited about the whole thing. So it's wholly collaborative, meaning there's no like dungeon master or storyteller? I mean, I'm gonna be the one that's like keeping things moving along. I set the tone, I set the pace. I'm sort of like ferrying them through if they get stuck. Okay. But it's more along the lines of I set the goal, like, hey, this thing happens. What are you gonna do? How are you going to handle this? How is your character going to handle this? The funny sidekick. What is the funny sidekick going to do? That's Vivian's character, of course, my youngest daughter. She's kind of last clown. Sounds about right. Yeah, that tracks. Ha, 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 ha. That's why we're best friends. It's true. So that's Kids on Bikes, and this is a tabletop role playing game that you can get in with very low investment because it's just one book. Correct? It is. And it's relatively thin too. Like I mean you guys can't see it, but it's back there and it's this tiny little book. It's tiny. It's maybe like 150 pages. Like it's not much at all. Whereas Overlight, on the other hand, is like hundreds of pages and it's this enormous tome of RPG-ness that I am too intimidated to dive into right now. Yay, tabletop role-playing games on Kickstarter. Overlight is insane. I'll tell you about it offline, Linda. Because it's just absolutely freaking bonkers. I regret not buying it on Kickstarter, but what are you going to do? I was on hiatus from Kickstarter. It was a forced hiatus, and the general made it very clear that it was not a good idea. And I follow orders. So, Linda. Yeah, you gotta. Linda, yes, I do. Yes. I do. Linda, what have you been playing? I know you've been playing the renovation game.
Yes.
And everyone should be following you on Instagram to get updates because they're riveting. So tell me, what games have you found a chance to play?
So we've had quite a hiatus since I was on last. So there's been quite a few, but the most recent one that proves to me that my gaming influence is starting to affect the wider family is my mother-in-law found a game at, it was either TJ Maxx or Marshall's, and she came to Sunday dinner and it's like, can we play a game?
Yep.
And she brings a game called Man Bites Dog. And
Okay.
all it is, it's a really, really simple party game, and it's each card has just one word on it. And you're dealt out 5 cards, you get one chance to trade cards, and you're building a headline. That's all it is. And the other players can, if it doesn't make sense, they can challenge it. And you get points. There's points at the bottom of the card. You play to 500. That's it. Super simple. We sat around the table after dinner and played, and just were laughing hysterically at some of the headlines.
This sounds like something I want to play with a bunch of gaming journalists. Just
get a few drinks in us first.
Yeah, well, I mean, we would people would definitely have to be drunk. It does not surprise me that this was your mother-in-law?
Yes.
Yeah, it does not surprise me that you that the gaming bug has been infectious in that direction. Call me when your mom brings a bunch of board games to your house.
Okay.
Watch her go do that. That wasn't intended to be rude, but then again, the last time she saw me, I think she was going to shoot me, literally.
Well, you did just walk in my house.
I totally barred. I walk into Amanda. So the story is, I walk into Linda and John's house without knocking.
Oh,
I just open the door and I say, "Hey guys, how's it going? Are you there?" And I did, and I thought, like, normally I'll like open it and like peek my head in and be like, "Hey, is anybody home?" And I thought I heard John, her husband, say yes, and it turns out I didn't. I heard like rumblings from the other room, so I just walked into the living room to find her mother and the boys, and she hadn't seen me in years. And I look different now than I did because I'm much bigger. I'm pretty sure she was gonna call the police.
Pretty much. If you hadn't identified yourself quickly, and yes. Or she would have thrown something at you.
She definitely would. Because I just walked right into the living room.
I can appreciate that feistiness.
Listen, I'm not unappreciative of it. I understand it completely. I'm just glad that her husband came downstairs relatively quickly. It was like, oh, hey. And also her sons were like, hey, it's Uncle Dude, yay. Because she was very uncomfortable for a minute. So I don't mean that rudely. But she's not the board game type.
No, she thought Evolution Beginning was really hard.
Oh, Evolution. I mean, it's not hard, but I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. So that's Man Bites Dog.
Yes.
And is that part of like the Target line of or what?
That one is actually, I even was looking on Amazon. It's not one that is easily found on Amazon for a relatively reasonable price.
Wow.
But it's one my mother-in-law found it. It was either TJ Maxx or Marshall. She couldn't remember which one.
Oh, so it's just around.
It's just around. Universal Games is the publisher. It's not one that I had heard of before, but it was a cute little game. So it's one of those, if you stumble upon it, it's worth picking up for a couple bucks. It's worth a laugh. Something light and easy. So
yeah,
that's the light and easy one as of late. Did you want us to do any more? Because I played a bunch over Christmas.
I would like the two of you, because I have done none, because I played too much Smash Brothers. Also, Valkyria Chronicles 4, finally.
That's also fair.
Yeah, so, and that may as well be a board game. Why don't you each do one more? So, Amanda, what else have you been playing?
We ended up playing a couple of different things over the holidays. We got some time in with 13 Clues. Because it's new to us. I know it came out in 2016, but we didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't pick it up from Simon until relatively recently. And it's one of few, like, social deduction games that I actually like. I have trouble with social deduction games. My empathy is, like, way off the charts. So lying to me, it hurts. So I'm not good at social deduction games that require lies. because it physically hurts me. But I love 13 Clues because it's all about figuring out what's in front of you, right? Like you've got these cards that are behind your screen and you're trying to figure out like who done it and who's the murderer and that that murdered your person or whatever. Those are your clues. So it was a ton of fun. I played it a few times with the family, and we played it with the kids, and we played it with all the adults, and it was a ton of fun. So that was definitely a highlight for me because it's one of those deduction games that doesn't squick me. So I marked that as like, yes, this is now a favorite game of mine.
Fair. So with your empathy being off the charts, does that make you like super good at like Dixit and Mysterium? Because you're just like in touch with people.
Yeah, I'm really good at Mysterium.
So did you steal So you stole my Mysterium skill because I'm terrible at it. So I think somehow you just reached into my subconscious and you took it. It's kind of like my wife stole my sense of smell. You stole my ability to play Mysterium.
We all gotta make sacrifices.
Yeah, that's
on the
fair.
bright side, though, you'd probably be way better at Secret Hitler than I am because I'm very bad at Secret Hitler.
No, I'm a terrible liar.
I'm so bad at it.
And
I crack under pressure. That's how you always know I'm an honest person. 'Cause I just crack under the pressure if I'm not being
I can't even play Sheriff of Nottingham. I can't do it. My entire strategy in Sheriff of Nottingham is I always tell the truth except for once per game.
Yeah, it's generally my strategy.
And it's won me a couple times. Linda was there once when I won, right? Or did we play Sheriff of Nottingham?
Nope. Nope. You have not had me do any of those lying games because I am horrible as well.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we're all terrible at lying games.
We are all terrible liars. So
we're terrible.
No,
yes,
that's one I have not played that yet.
Okay, so 13 Clues. I have heard of that. Is it real? It's really Simon? Like that's how we say that? Is that like actually how it's supposed to be pronounced, or is that just how you guys do it?
That's just how we do it.
Okay.
Because it's supposed to be Cool Mini or not, right? That's what it used to be. I remember like when I was younger, because I used to paint Warhammer back in the day, because I am a super dork. I played Warhammer 40K for like 15 years, and then I became a parent, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's too expensive.
I mean, that's fair.
So I used to submit my painted minis to Cool Mini or Not all the time. My brother and I both would. So that's how I know Simon, because that's what we used to say. It was just Simon.
Okay. I mean, I listen. Maybe when I'm at Toy Fair, I'll ask them.
Like, I think that's a great idea.
Like, how the heck do you say this?
How do you say this? Is it? Come on.
Come on. I don't know. I always thought that it was just Cool
like,
Mini or Not.
Here?
I just thought it was Cool Mini or Not. Also, in defense of the dork thing, Linda and I LARP, right? So like we challenge the dork spectrum.
I'm an ex-SEA dork.
Oh yeah, we don't do that because that's crazy.
That's expensive.
Ultra dorky.
I mean, ultra expensive, but also like anywhere like headshots with wooden weapons are encouraged. I'm out. I can't.
I just do the sewing. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, so that's 13 Clues from Simon, apparently. Linda, what else have you been playing?
So I have a new game that I got in from a Kickstarter I backed that we've brought to the table a few times, and it is a seasonal game called Christmas Lights. So this is a really cute little game. Again, relatively light, but there's a lot more strategy embedded. It's a Hanabi style game, so cards face away from you, so you don't know what's in your hand.
Is it crappy like Hanabi though?
I have not yet played Hanabi, so I cannot compare it. But I liked this game.
Not a good game.
No, I actually have it sitting in my cabinet. I got from a Yankee swap last year, so we may give it a try soon, but we'll see.
Maybe you guys will like it. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. I like Christmas Lights, and if it's the same mechanic, I might actually like Hanabi.
Okay.
But you're basically trying to build strings of Christmas lights. So you get a card. You draw a card that has a color pattern on it, and you have to build that pattern in order. And again, you can't see your cards, so you're gaining information because you're taking cards from other players.
Sounds
and
like
certain...
Hanabi.
It probably is a very similar mechanic. So we played it a couple times with different gaming friends, and everybody really liked it. It was really simple. It only took us a little bit to learn the very first time we played, and just a nice light little game. And the cool thing, we have not explored this yet. They made 11 different other mini games you can play with the same cards. So if you don't like the Hanabi style, there's other things that you can play using the same deck of cards.
I love it.
But we haven't.
I love it when Kickstarters do that, where it's like,
That's
here's
really versatile.
Here's this pile of stuff.
Here's all the stuff you can play.
Here's
with
things you
right?
can do with it. I love it. Also, I mean, that's skill from a design standpoint. Like, you got to know your stuff to be able to take the same pile of components and make that many different games of it that are worth putting out. You know what I mean? I mean, I could make whatever I want with a pile of stuff, but I'm terrible at making games. That's why I'm a critic. So, I mean, yeah, same. So, yeah, you know, I try to not be negative about games. I really do try to be somewhat positive, but Hanabi is a game that like it evokes it just evokes something from me. It brings like the deep dark part of my soul out. I don't know. Well, I do know why. It's the first time I was anyone ever tried to teach me. It was Kelly, she who needs no title, and her husband and some of their gaming friends trying to teach me at the in the free play area at PAX East. So it was just noise. So
that's utter madness.
Learning Hanabi learning Hanabi as me personally in the beehive that is the PAX East free-to-play table.
ADD.
Yeah, and I have ADD. Thank you, Evan. Go away. So
There's some shade for you.
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, he caught it from me. So, it was literally my own personal hell. So like, much love to R&R Games. All their other stuff is great for the most part. Mm-hmm. Man, Hanabi just makes me angry, and I've tried since then, and it's just I can't get past it. It's like my experience with One Direction. I just can't. You know, I just can't like. I try. I just can't do it. It's in sync for life for me. That's just what it is. So those are some great games, right? So what did we do? I talked about some Dungeons and Dragons stuff, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. We talked about Kids on Bikes and 13 Clues, and then Linda talked about Man Bites Dog, which, by the way, I really am a fan of that title for a game now that we know what it is. Out of context, I think both Amanda and I were very confused, but now we get it.
Understandable.
And Christmas Lights, which is the result of a very well done Kickstarter, actually, when they did that mid-year last year. It was very cool. So I think that's a pretty good little stack of games. We have successfully gone around the horn, ladies. So why don't we take a break, and then we will come back, and we'll talk about some of our favorite board games of 2018, shall we?
Hooray!
That's great.
All right. So, folks, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Probably less than that. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 159 of Engage, a family gaming podcast. I'm still Steven. I'm still here with Linda. I'm still here with Amanda. And we are still talking about board games.
We are.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And before the break, we went around the horn. But now we're going to celebrate 2018, because 2018 was a great year for board games. And we're going to share some of, because obviously we couldn't go off on every good game from last year. We would be doing...
There were so many.
Yes, it'd be so many. It would be like the Giant Bombcast, only just three of us. That's inside baseball. I'll explain it in a second. So, but the three of us we're going to share some of our cool experiences with board games. And, yeah, so before we get to board games, though, Amanda, you weren't here last week, so you didn't get a chance to talk about your video games of the year. I know your family video game of the year. Can you share it with us? Because I love it. And I just want to give them more opportunities for you to give them props. I know this is off topic. Linda, you can take a nap if you need to.
All right, good.
Oh my goodness. I love this game so much. I love these developers so much. I met them at the Game Developers Conference last year for the other site that I manage, which is GameDaily.biz. But this game is called The Adventure Pals, and it is this adorable, cheeky little platformer game that's all animated and drawn, and it's this little kid that's trying to rescue his dad from Dr. B, who rides on a bee, and he turns everybody into hot dogs. And you have your giraffe who lives in your backpack, and its name is Sparkles, and you're best friends, and you make friends with everybody on the road, like a whale that is looking to feel good about himself, and he wants to wear a swimsuit, so you find him swimsuit bottoms so he can feel good about his body. So, like, I mean, it's the most bonkers, wacky game I think I have ever played. Mm-hmm. And I think it might have unseated Banjo-Kazooie for me in terms of platformers with personality. So I absolutely love the Adventure Pals. It was definitely my family-friendly game of the year last year.
We have a review of that game up on EngageFamilyGaming.com, so if you're interested in seeing more of that, you can certainly read that. I loved it. Megan is currently playing it. Not currently, awesome. Because it's late and she's asleep, but currently that's what she's playing through. Linda, just for illustration, at one point you get the ability to hover from place to place, and the way you do that is your giraffe friend sticks his head up in the air and uses his tongue like a propeller. That's how stupid this game is. It's really dumb.
Sounds so cute, though.
This sounds like my boys would love it.
Oh, they absolutely would.
Because it is that level of ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
It's a total dream.
Yeah.
And the writing is so cheeky. It's still kid-friendly, but it's very cheeky because it kind of throws in those pop culture references where you're like, I understood that reference.
Yeah. You know who else would really like this game, Linda? Your husband. You know why? Because your husband likes really stupid stuff.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, you can't... you chose him. You chose him.
As he likes to say, I said yes twice.
You did. You said yes twice, so you're stuck. I wasn't there, but I have it on good authority that he did in fact say it. And I really only wasn't there because I missed you guys. We missed your wedding by like a month or two.
Something like that.
Okay, so that was slightly off topic, but Amanda's. When I read your thing on Mega Dads, I was like, well, I have to have you talk about it. So, okay, board games of the year. Here's how we'll do it. We're not doing it in any order or anything like that. The reason I made the Giant Bombcast reference, Linda, is that there's a website called Giant Bomb, and they do a Game of the Year thing where they get all of them, and there's a lot of them. And they just sit in a room, and they basically spent an entire workday recording a podcast, and I don't think they edited anything out. It was just
they never edit.
It was all top 10 lists, a bunch of grown men and some women just cursing at each other about their top 10 lists. And
a lot of shouting.
It's super entertaining if you're into that. So you would hate it, Linda. It's not your thing. It's
not my thing at all.
It's really not mine either, only because it's too long.
Very shouty. I don't like shouty things. I'm a very gentle Canadian. Yeah. So
they didn't apologize nearly enough. And NHL was not. And NHL
interrupted.
Yeah, exactly. And NHL 18 not on any of their top 10 lists.
That's fair. It wasn't a very good game. So that's the only sports game I ever really play. I only ever play Sports Puck games, and I only ever watch Sports Puck on television.
Sports Puck as opposed to Sports Ball? I see what you did there.
As opposed to Sports Ball. It has to be played on ice.
Is it still against the rules, though, to not call it by its true name? Like, aren't you, like, violating Canadian law by not referring to it as hockey?
No. Right. I would be violating Canadian law by being impolite.
All right. Okay.
They would toss me out of my own country. And also for not chugging more maple syrup. I mean, that's just how we do in Canada.
You say that, like, listen, I went to a Magic tournament once where that was a side event, a maple syrup chugging contest.
It's a thing.
It was not pleasant. I watched.
No, it's legitimately a thing. I don't think that you know this. It is a thing.
I know it's a thing. I watched it happen.
It's a celebratory thing that, especially on the East Coast, like East Coast Canadians do it all the time. I'm from the West Coast, so we don't really do that because I don't know, we have our own culture. But East Coast Canadians, they do like shots of maple syrup. It's the most incredible thing. I heard it as a follow-up to when the Toronto Maple Leafs won a significant victory a few years back. They're like, yeah, and everybody did maple syrup shots. And I'm like, that's the most messed up Canadian thing I've heard in a long time.
It's super bad.
As a Canadian.
That's fair. I was at a Magic tournament and I literally watched 5 people give themselves diabetes. And I was like, whoa. Because it was just the big bottles. And I was like, man. And I told my oldest son about that, and he was like, "Did you do it, Dad?" And I was like, Listen,
I like living.
I mean, for real. This was post me being with the general. She would not have put up with that if I came home and was like, "Yeah, I'm a little, my belly's upset. I chugged a bottle of maple syrup." I think she would have kicked me out. I think she might not have. I would have been sleeping at John and Linda's house that night.
Maybe.
Now, John would let me in. You might not.
Might not.
Okay, so, all right, so board games. No giant bomb shenanigans. We're just going to kind of go around the room. I let Amanda go first last time. Linda, what was one of your favorite games of last year? Let's do 2 or 3 each, something like that.
Okay. So one game that came out in the second half of last year, I think it was the second half, Monster Match. That was such a cute one. That's the same people that put out Happy Salmon.
Yep.
And I'm drawing a complete blank on the
North Star Games.
North Star Games. Thank you.
And this is part of the Happy Planet initiative.
So their Happy Planet game, Monster Match. It's such a cute game for the little ones. And we've talked about this one before. You lay out tiles that have different monsters on them, and they have different numbers of features, different numbers of eyes, different numbers of arms, different numbers of legs, and you have to roll a die, and it tells you there's 2 dice. One is basically body parts of the monsters, one is how many of that body part, and then it's a matter of being the first to find one monster with the correct number of attributes that came up on the dice. And it's just super cute little game, so accessible from different ages because there's no reading except for the number. So, it's just so cute. And the little bag that the tiles go in is shaped like a monster with the zipper for the mouth.
Oh.
So it's so cute.
That sounds adorable.
Oh, it's super cute. I'm amazed that you did not already own 3 copies of it just because it is super cute.
I haven't even heard of it. I'm gonna have to get this game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's a small container for the tiles, so it's one of those really portable, bring to a friend's house and the kids can go play. Very kind of sizes. And
we have it on good authority that grown-ups can play this game. It's just very different. Speaking of
the
happy,
kids will beat you probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be weird. The kids definitely. Oh man, I can't beat kids at this game. And the cool thing is the monsters. They're all they're mug shots of these monsters because they're stealing donuts. No, it's super cute. Now
it's so cute, and that's how you win is who has the most donuts. You add up the number of donuts on all your tiles.
Yeah,
it's so cute.
So it's not. That's
cool.
the other key, that it's not necessarily about who has the most cards because. I can have a bunch of cards with only 1 donut, but there are some cards with 4. So it really does give you some... It makes it a little random for the younger kids, which sometimes randomness kind of makes things good for them. But also,
They like chaos.
Yeah, they like chaos. But then as they get a little bit older, it does add a little bit of strategy without making it really thinky. So it just means they might pick up and put down cards. My kids love this game too. I was fortunate enough to have a copy sent home with me from Toy Fair last year.
Nice.
Yeah, you should come to Toy Fair with me.
I think I am going to go to Toy Fair.
Okay.
Actually, I have some people from Ravensburger, I think, that want me to come swing by and check out some of their games.
Well, if you happen to go on that Saturday, then you can come with me and Linda. Because me and Linda are going, pending our approval, which I've never been denied Toy Fair, so I can't imagine not, but you know how that goes.
Oh, I know how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I'm assuming until they say no, the answer is yes. That only works when you're applying for conventions. It doesn't work in any other situation.
No.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, speaking of Happy Planet, I'll go. I'm going to talk about another part of the Happy Planet initiative, and that is Funky Chicken. Here's my question for you, Amanda. Have you ever played Happy Salmon at all?
I've never played any of these games. This is the first time hearing of them.
Okay, listen. When I come for our business meeting, I'm going to bring Happy Salmon. And I'm going to
Awesome.
bring Funky Chicken, and I'm definitely going to bring Monster Match. I have all three of these things. So here's what Funky Chicken is. I guess in order to know Funky Chicken, you have to know Happy Salmon also. Basically, they are decks of 16 cards. No, more than that. It's 8 per color, right? I think it's 8 per color. Or 6 per color. Something like that.
Well, there's 4 moves. I know there's 4 moves. I don't remember how many there are of each, but I know there's 4 different moves to do.
I think it's 8 per color because it's 2 of each. And so for Happy Salmon, for example, you're going to have every person gets a different colored deck of 8 cards, right? And so for Happy Salmon, there are 4 different moves that you do. One is essentially a high five. Another one is like a do-si-do, where you got to like link arms and like switch spots. Another one is, I can't remember the third one, but it's something, you spin. You stand up and you have to spin around. And the last one is Happy Salmon, where you're like going for the high five, but you're actually slapping each other's elbows. And you do that a bunch of times because that's what salmon are like. And the idea is you're dealing through your cards, and you need to find a partner at the table who also has that card that they are trying to do. So it's like, we're going to high five. Okay, and then if you do that, you both discard your card. Then you play it out. And so it's a lesson in patience, because obviously if you say, okay, Happy Salmon, and nobody has it, you can put it to the bottom of your deck and do the next one. But if you happen to do that and put it behind, and somebody else does the same thing a few seconds later and you don't match up, then so be it. That's like the test. It's a patience test. It's really fun for kids. It's also really stupid. And the idea of the game is to just make you be dumb, because everyone laughs and smiles because it's fun. If you go
Because it's ridiculous.
If you go to the North Star Games booth at PAX Unplugged or Toy Fair, or probably not Toy Fair because it's kind of stuffy, but like at any fan show, you're going to see them demoing the game, and it's all just going to be wild people, often cosplaying, just being absolutely crazy. So just imagine the cast of Overwatch playing this really stupid game. Funky Chicken is the same game. The difference is it's 4 different moves.
Okay.
So one of them is get funky, like the Funky Chicken.
Like the Funky Chicken.
And it goes from there. Like, it's really meant to just be a different... Basically, it's all the moves that were different. They thought about making an expansion to Happy Salmon, but then they found out that you couldn't really do that because it makes it too long. We actually tested this for them. We did them a favor, and we actually put the 2... We were one of the first groups to put the 2 games together to actually show them what the game was like, and it was much too long. It was exhausting as hell.
But it was hysterical.
But it was absolutely hysterical.
There are clips of the video on my Instagram account. There's 3 videos in a row. There's one of Funky Chicken, one of Happy Salmon, and then one of the mashup. And it's absolutely hysterical. So.
And we were so exhausted.
Yes.
But again, the mission of these Happy Planet games, and that includes Monster Mash, Funky Chicken, and Happy Salmon, is they're all intended to just make you smile. And they're meant to be accessible and simple, and you're supposed to be able to bust them out anywhere. Everyone understands what they are, and it's absolutely true. I have never played a Happy Planet game and not been happy at the end of it. It also does not help, and it really does. It lightens just about any mood. The other good news is these are cheap. The cards are very well constructed. Like, they are meant to take a beating. And frankly, even if they get destroyed, the games are less than $10 on Amazon. And they all come in a little cloth bag and the cards stick in the bag. So obviously the first one is shaped like a fish. Mm-hmm. The next one is shaped like a chicken with sunglasses, because it's funky, and the Monster Match is in the shape like a monster. Those are that collection. Happy Salmon came out a couple of years ago. It was like their first product in that line before they even really named it. But those 3 are definitely one of my favorite games of this year, just because, man, did we need an excuse to just get stupid and happy in 2018. So Funky Chicken, that is my first... it's not my game of the year or anything crazy like that, but it's definitely the first game that I wanted to mention as part of my best games of 2018. Amanda, what's one of the best board games that you played this year? Because I know you played a ton, because I follow you on Twitter, and you talk about it a lot.
I talk about board games a lot on Twitter, like so much. So I think that one of my favorite games from last year was Cat Lady. And it's not like it's not my board game of the year or anything like that. But Cat Lady, I ended up playing after we picked it up from the AEG booth at PAX Unplugged. And it is this game where you have to be the craziest cat lady. You have to collect cats, and you have to make sure that your cats are all fed. And you have this board lined up of, just you deal out all of these cards, and you have different cards depending on whether or not you have 2 players playing or 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have the most awesome cats. They have to be, there are a certain number of points, and you lose points if you don't have all your cats fed. And I'm not a cat lady in the sense that I have 2 dogs, so I don't really like cats in real life. They usually scratch me and not like me all that much. But I love Cat Lady because it is a hysterical good time while you're talking about all of these cat names like Marmalade and Bartholomew.
I think Bartholomew is a perfect name for a cat.
Bartholomew. Perfect.
So
yeah, then you have like all of
she
these
said
stray
perfect.
cats. Exactly. Perfect. There we go. I do a lot of puns. These are the puns. You guys are going to have to deal with this a lot. I'm sorry in advance, but also I'm not sorry at all.
I ain't mad.
Awesome. So yeah, Cat Lady was a favorite game of mine from last year. I think I played it like 7 or 8 times in a row. I could not get enough of this game. Like, let's go again.
Sure. I'm looking it up right now on the Amazons.
It's not that expensive. I think it's under 20.
I'm confirming that. I think so too, because I think I've seen it before. Cat Lady is $22.75, so it may as well be
under 25.
It's under 25. I mean, listen, it's all kind of the same.
Sure.
Once you're under $25, they're all pretty inexpensive. I love the art on this.
It is super cute.
The Amazon thing shows us Sir Cuddleface is one of the cats.
Yes.
We might end up getting this for my daughter at some point because she desperately wants a cat. So maybe this will just be the closest that she'll ever get to that until she's grown. Until she's grown. My wife, the general, is violently cat allergic. So if we brought a cat into this house, my wife would likely have to leave.
That would be very bad.
I like her at least a little and would prefer that she not leave. Because I don't know what I would eat. And that's important to me. Okay, so round 1 complete. Monster Mash, Funky Chicken. So literally 2/3 of the Happy Planet line and Cat Lady. Linda, what do you got that's maybe a little bit more crunchy for us? You played something, Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I know crunch. You're talking to the wrong person if you want crunchy. So for things that were actually published in 2018, didn't have a lot of crunchy games. There's one that was definitely a harder game than it looked. There's a game that I did a review for fairly recently called Tournament of Towers.
Yep.
And that's a dexterity game. So you were literally drafting cards with the different components, these plastic components on them. And then you have to build in that order that you lay out your cards. And it's really hard to build a tower. They purposely have made them not very stable pieces.
So it's kind of like junk art, only like different, like just different, with like a card aspect to it. Did you ever play junk art, Amanda?
No, I haven't.
But you've seen it on like Instagram. You know what I'm.
I have, yeah.
I know you enjoyed Tournament of Towers quite a bit. So they deliberately made the pieces obnoxious to make towers out of?
So there's 2 different kinds of pieces. There's the gray pieces that are supposed to represent stone, and those are a little easier to build. They all have flat edges, at least on a couple 2 sides.
Yeah.
And then there's gold pieces. So the pieces are yellow and they're worth more points, but they are completely irregular. A lot of them are rounded edges. But the nice thing is with the tower, it doesn't have to be just building straight up. You can fit things in between. You get an additional points for having the tallest tower, but if your tower is not going to stand up, you're not going to get any points. So it's okay to build a shorter tower and nestle things in. What's really nice is suggest a bunch of different variants because we tried playing it by standard rules, and my 6-year-old got super frustrated because he did not have the dexterity to build that many pieces and have it stand up independently. So we went with there's a variant where you basically do half of the number of pieces, and then he felt more comfortable. It was more manageable. So I like that they built in a bunch of ways to scale it up and make it harder, and to scale it down and make it more accessible for, especially for the young ones that have more issues with fine motor and dexterity.
Sure.
Really cool pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Amazon listing right now, and there's definitely some cool stuff. And you're right. Some of these yellow pieces are just really, really stupid looking. It's like somebody was just playing around with a 3D printer and was like, check out this shenanigans we can put in this tower game.
That sounds like something I'd do.
Yeah.
Yes. I do think a lot of them are actual legitimate architectural pieces, and they all have like formal sounding names. I can't say for fact that they are actually like not made up from somebody's head just for the game, but I mean, they do at least seem like more official. And there's one cool variant, and I have not tried it because my dexterity is not that good. There's a challenge to use every single piece in the game and build one tower, but it has to fit on like a 4x3 square.
Whoa.
And people have done it. There are pictures out there, but I am not willing to try that at this point.
Wow. Yeah, I bet you that there's some people on Reddit trying to figure that out right now. Like 100%. So this one is currently on the Amazon. This is a little bit pricier than some of the other ones we talked about. It's $69.99. With that said, there's a lot of freaking plastic in this. So if you like dexterity games, you really like the idea of tower building, etc. This is worth a look, especially if you guys are if your family's competitive in this way. Also, even if your kids are a little young and you think maybe they'll want to do it, if you want to play, get it and just let them play with it. Because at the end of the day, like I say, folks, once you buy it, it's your box of junk. Do with it what you please. And there's a lot of cool stuff in here. So that's Tournament of Towers by Iron Hippo Games. It's really just an unfortunate name for a company, I think. But hey, they can do as they please. Amanda, what else you got?
Oh man, I have so much. I have so many things. So it depends. Are we staying primarily with only like little kid friendly games, or can I talk about teen friendly games?
Teenagers are part of the family too.
They super are. So one of the games that I ended up playing last year that I absolutely adored was the new version of Arkham Horror. The 3rd edition of Arkham Horror came out. And let me see if I can pull it up, because we did a review on Super Parent.
You did?
We did Arkham Horror on Super Parent. It was just a ton of fun. And what I love about the new edition of Arkham Horror is that it takes everything that was terrible about Arkham Horror, and there was a lot of bad stuff about Arkham Horror from both the 2nd and the 1st edition. I've only ever played the 1st edition, but a lot of it just doesn't work. It takes too long to play. It's really finicky with its rule set, and it's very like Fantasy Flight. You guys know what I mean by like the Fantasy Flight, like very fiddly rules, and it takes for bloody ever. So 3rd edition. Go ahead.
I said I do know. I'm not sure that Linda doesn't normally do the heavier stuff. That's usually my job. Basically, if it's Fantasy Flight, I really kind of don't even tell Linda about it. We
have a lot of Fantasy Flight games in our house.
That's because y'all are a bunch of big dorks.
We are a bunch of big dorks. It's very true.
But
you
also,
should see
y'all
our
are a
board
bunch
games.
of. I want to see it. I'm going to see it when I come down for a business trip.
It's very true. So, 3rd edition of Arkham Horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely reimagined the actual layout of the board, and it's now modular so that you can change it up. The original board for Arkham Horror was just you fold it out. You can add like Innsmouth to it if you want to. And there's a couple of other things that you can add in terms of add-ons, but it just kind of makes the board bigger and bulkier, and it makes everything more complicated and annoying. But 3rd edition, you just modularly put stuff on. And it kind of reminds me of Pandemic in the sense that when a gate opens, it's like when an outbreak happens in Pandemic, it kind of just like balloons out. and it spreads out, and you end up with like way more baddies than you originally intended, and it keeps things really interesting. It's not, it doesn't feel soul crushing all the time. I mean, I know it's H.P. Lovecraft and it's supposed to feel soul crushing, but the other versions of the game were just really off-putting. And the fact that you have scenarios in the third edition of the game that you're working toward, and you're trying to close gates, and you're trying to work towards like, hey, maybe we don't want Azathoth destroying and eating the world again. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of elements. Yeah, just a thought. It's fine. I mean, everybody loves, having their universe eaten, I guess. I mean, I'm not a fan of it personally, but maybe other people like it. Maybe it's their thing. I don't know. So I loved Arkham Horror 3rd Edition because it just streamlines everything. It makes it really easy and really simple to play. It reminds me of what they did with Mansions of Madness, when they made Mansions of Madness an actual game that you want to play, as opposed to a game that just kind of eats your attention, if you catch my drift. So anyway, I love that. If we're talking about like a meaty game that is more teen friendly than anything else, kind of creepy, I would absolutely recommend Arkham Horror 3rd Edition. And if you have 2nd Edition, put it on eBay and go buy the 3rd one, because the 2nd Edition is worthless. It's just not a good game in comparison. That is my hot take. That's spicy ball.
I don't know if that's, I mean, is that spicy? Like, isn't that just a general consensus?
No, the general consensus is the edition is terrible.
All right, yeah, so that's Arkham Horror. That is also available on the Amazon's. Not super inexpensive either. It's in the $60 range, but there's a lot of game there. It's
a lot of game.
Yeah. And again, not necessarily for the younger kids. Although realistically, it's more thematically scary than it is actually scary. It's not like...
There's also a lot of reading. So if you have kids that are just getting into reading and are maybe just beginning at reading, they probably won't have a good time because they have to have somebody play with them. Like my daughter V, she wouldn't like it nearly as much because she's pre-reading right now. So... Yeah.
It's... Realistically, this is one of those, if you're looking for a cooperative game and this interests you and you want to build up to it, go to engagefamilygaming.com and search up cooperative games to play with your family, and we give you a whole bunch of suggestions.
So many.
At the very least, just go play Pandemic, because that's just as dark and way easier. So, but
you will almost be guaranteed to get your butt kicked. Every time.
In Pandemic?
In Pandemic. I always get my butt kicked.
Well, get good.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Come on, that was pretty good.
That was
pretty good. I'm allowed one get good probably forever. Okay, so I want to talk about Stuffed Fables. Can I talk about Stuffed Fables? Okay, so I will not belabor the point significantly by nature of the fact that I've spoken about Stuffed Fables a lot because I was crazy hype about it before it came out. I was crazy hype about it after I played it. But here's the weird thing, like we haven't really played it since because we're kind of saving it for when our daughter is a little bit more into it. Because I think she's the one that's it's her and I that are like all in on this thing. The general just wants to paint the minis.
That's fair.
And the boys, they're down, but they'll play just about anything. But it's really like this is Maggie's thing. So are you aware of what Stuffed Fables is, Amanda?
Only tangentially. So I haven't played it, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay. All right. So I won't explain it to you. So for those listening, brief explanation. It's a role-playing game in a box where you play as stuffed toys, defending a young girl because it's her first night in a big girl bed, and the magical crib walls are no longer there to protect her, so now it is their job to do it. Which is, frankly, like, I'd watch that anime.
That's fair. I probably would too.
I would definitely watch that anime. That's like my default answer on Facebook. I'm sure you guys have both seen me type that a lot. I'm just like, no, I definitely would watch that anime. But the other thing is, I just think it's a really cool, the story is done in a super cool way. We played through a bunch of the story missions, and it's very cool. It's a role-playing game in a box where you don't need a dungeon master. But my favorite part about it, and this is just the mechanic that is, I hope everybody steals it. I really don't know how else to say it, is the adventure book. It is a spiral-bound book that is both the rules and the game map and the scenario all at once. On one side is a grid or a piece of key art from a scene or a illustration of what your challenges are. And on the other page is the Dungeon Master rules text. And the rules are, it's a dice game, so it's dice in a bag, doing that stuff. But so you're dealing with dice pools and all that kind of stuff. But the idea is the dice are all kind of, rather than being, this is my combat dice that I use just for my weapon, it also represents other things like strength or, it deals with that kind of genre of checks and abilities. And then yellow is about different stuff, and green, etc., and going down the line. So there are some encounters that have no combat in them. They are, for example, there's one of them where you're in a wagon trying to ride down a hill. And you have to use your dice to keep all of your friends on the wagon. Otherwise, they fall off and then you fail the encounter. And so, which is super cool. And so, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, we stopped playing it because Megan, who at the time was 5, she was falling off a little bit and was really interested, but just when it got to the mechanics part, she didn't want to play. So we made the conscious decision, as excited as I was, I would have soloed the thing, because I really enjoyed it. We decided to put it away because we wanted to wait until, because she was clearly more hype than some of the kids were. We wanted to wait and have this be her kind of introduction to miniatures combat, because it's super cute. There's a stuffed elephant that fights with a mallet.
That sounds awesome.
No, it's super great.
The minis are so cute.
And yeah, no, this is I don't think it sold as well as it should have, so I don't know if Plaid Hat is going to keep going. But if you can grab it. I think you will. I think that folks will enjoy it. Just keep in mind, my daughter's 5. She was, she was into it but out of it, which I think we deal with a lot of 5-year-olds. That's how they roll.
That is how they roll. Yep.
So, but as a result, cool thing about board games, it's not like I got to keep a console hooked up to play it. So we just leave the box on a shelf, and when she's ready, man, is that going to be a wild time. It's super great. I'll look it up on the Amazons because I know it's there. But I do hope more people take that idea. It's about $55. I really hope more companies kind of follow their lead and use that adventure book mechanic. I want to play a Dungeons and Dragons adventure in that. It just makes total sense. I just want all of it. Make a Dead of Winter game, Plaid Hat, make a Mice and Mystics sequel. Just do it all. And also it's cheaper because they don't have to make cardboard stuff. Right? Think about Mice and Mystics, right? With all the cardboard grid pieces and everything. Replacing that entirely with a book. And also, how easy is it to just make expansions? You just make a book. See? It's like I know what I'm doing. So that's Stuffed Fables.
I love it.
So Linda, let's go around
Yes.
one more time. What you got for me?
So I have a coding game. So this is a game called Coder Minds, and it is a program motion game that has some sort of artificial intelligence aspects to it. So one of the variants allows you to sort of basically program your robot to move across the board all the way to the goal. So it's really neat. It's similar to Robot Turtles and Coder Bunnies that we've talked about before. This one, of the coding games I've played, and I've played a couple now, this is my favorite to date. This one I feel like is the cleanest. The pieces were the easiest to manage. The rules were the most streamlined. There were a bunch of variants, but not an overwhelming number. So there were a lot of reasons that I thought this was sort of the if you were going to pick one coding game, I'd say go for this one, even above Robot Turtles, which up until this point has been sort of high on the list.
That is high praise, folks.
It is very high praise. So they did a really great job with this. We played a couple variants of it. We started with the easiest one where you're just trying to draw a couple cards, plan, like 3 cards worth of action, up to 3 cards worth of action, and trying to get to your end goal up to 3 cards at a time to program your motion. But what I liked is one of the variants, and I started referring to it, you have where your robot starts, you have a goal, something to pick up, and a place to stop as your end point. And so you try to draw cards and design your hand without going back and looking at it, which is really hard, the entire path. And then you flip everything over and you move it and see if you programmed it correctly or not. So
That's cool.
It's really neat. It's hard to not have it all in front of you too, but really neat. Getting that programming, that program motion skills. I mean, it's such a 21st century skill with being able to do coding and programming.
It's true. I have a degree in computer science.
There we
I
go.
understand this.
There we go.
I am so bad at program movement games, fam. So bad. I am embarrassingly bad. It's one of the it is my hidden shame. I'm more. It's not really hidden because I just broadcast it to the internet. But I am more ashamed of how bad I am at program movement games than I am about the fact that I've never finished Chrono Trigger. That's how ashamed I am. But that's okay. That's fine. I'll finish Chrono Trigger one day, but I'll never be good at program movement games. Part of that's because I get way too distracted and forget what I did. I think that's my big issue. I get real distracted. So, all right, so that's Coder Minds. We have a review up on the site, engagefamilygaming.com. So look up Coder Minds. There's a Z on there. It's not the early aughts, but we still have a Z at the end. So it's Coder Minds. There's cute little robots in it, though.
Yep.
So
and the
that makes
other
up...
little cool fun fact, the board game designer is a 9-year-old girl. So that's a cool fun fact.
That's a fun fact.
Fun fact. So just
facts.
A neat little bonus.
Amanda, what you got for us?
All right, so we did our crunchy game, something that's pretty high impact. Probably my other absolute favorite game of the year last year was Space Park. And Space Park is this fantastic game from Keymaster Games. It's an early reader game. You don't need to read much. A lot of it is iconography. You can play with up to 4 people. And the whole point of it is that you're traveling the stars, you're visiting exotic locations, and you're earning merit badges, like you were a scout of some kind. So it's a quick game. You need to mine crystals, you turn them into badges, and you race to the first person to get to 20 points wins. And it's this fun little retro futuristic aesthetic. It's gorgeous. And it's really, really easy to learn. So it's a low impact game for a bunch of different kinds of players. Like if you have a non-gamer in your household and you really want to get them to the table, Space Park is really just, it's a fun game, and it's immersive as heck. And my 6-year-old, my freshly 6-year-old, absolutely loves Space Park because she doesn't have to do a ton of reading. All she has to do is take a look at numbers, and she's great with numbers. She's just not great with reading yet. So
okay.
Yeah, so Space Park is a ton of fun. We played that for the first time also at PAX Unplugged, I think. I think that was one of our haul from PAX Unplugged. And man, that is the gift that keeps on giving.
All right, Space Park. You guys had quite the haul from PAX Unplugged.
Oh my goodness. You guys can go check out my Twitter for that information. There is, oh my god. We came home with so many games.
I think you came home with almost as many as Rob from Pawn's Perspective, because man, listen, when you ask for review copies of games, they give them to you. That's how it works. I was sad that I missed it. Next year,
hang with me, dude. You come hang with me.
Next year we're gonna go. We just this was I was still recovering from unemployment.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, it's not cheap, but we'll make it work. I'll go to my last one then. So that's Space Park. It's $30. Pretty inexpensive. It says 14 plus. Sounds like don't be intimidated by that. I think that's probably for the license. It's the standard issue licensing thing. They just didn't want to make it a toy. They didn't want to pay the money to make it a toy. I get it. That's normal.
And they don't want to turn it into like an educational kind of game. But yeah, you don't have to be 14 years old to play this game. It's so low impact.
Yeah. That's a good way of phrasing that, and we'll probably have to steal that moving forward. Because, we've definitely run into this says that it's for 13-year-olds, but really, guys, it's not. It's just they did that because they didn't want to pay the money to get it inspected as a toy. So
that's a mood.
That's a thing. All right, so I think I'm gonna close it off with my third game. Unless you guys are super excited to talk about something afterwards. I want to talk about Fireball freaking Island, okay?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Full disclosure, I did work the booth. Linda and I both worked the booth for Restoration Games last year at PAX Unplugged. So, I know them, but whatever. It's a super rad game. But just for sake of disclosure, I did work the booth. Go figure, it's really easy to sell Fireball Island, especially when you're not charging for it. So I was just trying to get people to sign up for a mailing list. It worked. Fireball Island is freaking awesome. Okay, that's all. That's the beginning piece of this. When they set out to create this monstrosity, what they wanted to do was create the game that we remembered, not the game that we played. And that is what they did. Fireball Island from the 80s and early 90s was a giant mess. It was expensive. It was a roll and move, and nobody plays those anymore. It was, did I mention expensive? The reality is, most of the people who have played it at a friend's house or something like that. Not a lot of people got it, and that's one of the reasons why it was out of print, and they stopped making it and supporting it. Because it was at a time when board games were, you paid almost nothing for a copy of Monopoly or Sorry or Parcheesi or whatever. It's not like today where you hear about a board game and you're like, oh, $100. Well, there's a lot of figs in that, so it's fine. This was an expensive board game, and parents were like, what are you talking about? This is just fancy Monopoly. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it. So so they modernized it, and it is bright and colorful and interesting, and so you can roll fireball marbles at your children, and not literally at them, at their characters on the board. So essentially the idea is there's the island that is inhabited by Volcar, which is the giant, crazy volcano-headed thing at the top of it. And the idea is you playing cards to move your dudes around the map, trying to catch these various idols, trying to take pictures, etc., get the treasures, and then get back to the helicopter and get out. And you're earning points while doing so, more or less. That's the game. It's really simple. You're moving cards, moving spaces. There are some complications because you have to deal with the fact that there are marbles that you're rolling all over the place. And that sounds like it's going to be more complicated, but it's really not. Because it's intended to add a little bit of randomness to it, but it's not much more complicated. It's just a little random. And it's a lot of fun. It can be played by a wide age range. Linda, did you have your boys?
Yes.
Was even the youngest able to get in on this one?
Oh, the youngest was in wholeheartedly. He had an absolute blast. Not too hard for him at all. We had to just do some help him read the cards, but that's not a big deal. Easy enough. Actually, I had my youngest and my niece, who's only a couple months older than him, so two 6-year-olds playing it when we were up at the in-laws for pre-Christmas, and they picked it right up. It was no trouble at all for them. So accessibility-wise, we just had to read the cards to them, and the cards are short, and it's easy to facilitate that. So
makes total sense.
They had an absolute blast.
This is one of those things where just table appeal is... this game, it certainly looks great on a table. It looks great on an Instagram account. I'll tell you that much. Not that matters.
Nicely too.
Not that matters to anyone, but really the three of us, and But so it is available. It is. I will say this game is not cheap. That is the downside. However, just look up Fireball Island on Instagram or look up images online. You'll see what we mean. This board is big. The game is cool. If you and your kids are into just big, flashy, just kind of cool looking things, this is the coolest looking game I think I have ever played. I don't really feel like there's any other contenders, just because it's intended to just look freaking rad. So yeah, Fireball Island. It's $75. I mean, it's hard to ignore that, right? That is a lot of money. However, it's a cool, accessible game where you get to roll fireballs at your siblings. I mean, how is that not a selling feature for your kids? I don't know.
I want to throw fireballs at my children. I mean, their characters.
Yeah.
I mean, my children.
For real. So that's Fireball
You're not
Island.
wrong.
Specifically, it's Fireball Island, The Curse of Volcar.
Volcar.
Now, my understanding is they hit the appropriate stretch goal where Rob Daviau is creating a Dungeons and Dragons game module set on this island. I don't think that's been released yet.
No, not as far as I know.
I asked him, I tried to get him because I asked Rob if he would run it for me as a birthday gift, and he told me no, because it wouldn't be done before my birthday, which made me sad, but I'm going to make him run that game for me. He may not be listening, but he will run it for me one day. Or maybe I'll just run it for my kids, and that'll be fine. So that's Fireball Island, The Curse of Volcar. Do either of you have any other games that are that you absolutely OMG must mention?
No.
I probably do. Yes.
Okay, so you have. I yield the floor to you.
Okay, this is my last game, and I absolutely love this game too. And it's a little bit higher impact than Space
That's
Park.
okay.
And it's called My Little Scythe.
My Little Scythe. Oh, perfect edition this year.
I love My Little Scythe. It is a way, way, way more accessible version of, Scythe. Scythe is a big, beefy game that takes a dog's age to play. It's very complicated. It's rich and beautiful, and it's such a satisfying experience. But, oh my goodness, it takes forever. And it's not cute. It's very depressing and kind of sad. But My Little Scythe is a kiddo-friendly version of Scythe that was put together by Jamie Stegmaier. Or sorry, not Jamie Stegmaier. That was the original designer of the game. It was put together by, oh my goodness, what is her name? Vienna Chow and her dad. They put together a My Little Pony version of Scythe, and they called it My Little Scythe. So Hasbro ended up purchasing the rights to it and republishing it for them in a broader context, but it's not My Little Pony, which is kind of sad because we're big My Little Pony fans in this household. In fact, I have a pony on my desk right here.
Was that Rarity?
That's Rarity. This is my pony. Anyway, so yeah, we've been watching My Little Pony for a long time in this household with all the kids. So My Little Scythe is a game of friendship and throwing pies and figuring out what kind of badges you want to get at the end of the game, because the game is, you have two seekers, and on any turn you get to choose one of 3 upgradable actions. You can move, you can seek, which adds resources to the board, or you can make, which is using the resources that your seekers control to create magic spells, pies, or power-ups for your actions. And the goal of the game is to earn 4 of 8 possible trophies before any of the other players. It includes things like raising your friendship to a high level by helping other players, boosting your pie stock, which you have food fights with other players. You can upgrade your basic actions a couple times, have a pie fight. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. And it's a game of balance. It's strategic, but it's a low-impact strategic game. It's one of those things it's baby's first strategy game. It was Vivi's first strategy game. My youngest daughter, she's never played a strategy game before, and she loves My Little Scythe because she gets to throw pies at her brothers, and it makes her really happy. So
I'm down with that.
My Little Scythe is unbelievably fun, and you can paint the minis as well. I've been dying to sit down and paint these minis for ages and ages. But if you've been thinking about picking up Scythe for yourself, skip it. Skip it and get My Little Scythe, because it's way, way more fun to play with your kids, and obviously you can't really play like the full version of Scythe with your children because it's a lot. There are a lot of rules there. My Little Scythe doesn't have a lot of rules. It's being friends and throwing pies and gathering gems and stuff like that. So yeah, super, super fun, low impact, minimal reading, so you can let your pre-readers play with you. And they don't necessarily need to have somebody on their team to read the cards because it's heavy on symbology. So I'm always very sensitive to that because V's like, I can't read yet. I don't want to play this game. It's going to make me read, and I don't want anyone on my team. I want to do it by myself. So she's very sensitive to that. But she learns things very quickly. So anyway, My Little Scythe is my game of the year. My board game of the year that's kid-friendly is My Little Scythe. So I wanted to make sure that, this little girl and her dad got mad props for getting Hasbro to take notice of their game.
Sounds great to me. Yeah, no, the whole story of how it all came out, like when the print and play packet for the My Little Pony version came out, I was like, I saw it and I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome for like a week.
And then they're going to get a DMCA.
And it's like, oh, well, they're not charging for it, so like maybe. And then I was like, oh, but #Hasbro. Hasbro does not play.
They do not.
So but those rules are still out there. And I actually kind of want to buy and build that version. Not that I dislike this one, but just because I want to play it where I get to play as Rarity. So
that's totally understandable.
Yeah. So that's it.
I have Rarity on my desk.
I know. Well, no, Rarity's my favorite. We've been over this on the podcast before. I don't know why it came up, but she's my girl. So that's a tangent we don't need to go on. Linda's heard this story a dozen times, and it's fine. I'll explain it on our business meeting. But But no, I part of me just kind of wants to build the original version. We have My Little Scythe. I actually haven't played it. And
you should definitely play it.
I know. Of course I should.
Next game day, once the game room's done.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, the goal, yeah, we need to start having those.
Yes.
You just need to have a house that's fully stapled together.
It's working on it.
Listen, the guy was there working on it. The dude was there working on a Sunday. They're certainly not exactly slowing down. So, yeah, no, I am fully in support of My Little Scythe being your board game of the year. We didn't do board game of the year awards this year, but I think part of that was just because we didn't get it done before we shut down for 2018 because we close up shop the last 2 weeks of the year because families and holidays are important. We'll make sure that we get that done before we shut down next year. So I think that's it, guys. I think we made it. We did it. We did the thing. All right, everybody. That was episode 159 of Engage, a family gaming podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. We're going to be back next week where Amanda and I are going to talk about our most anticipated video games of 2019. Spoiler alert, I'm just going to yell about Kingdom Hearts for about 5 minutes. I'll warn you, and then you can fast forward if you want.
I'm going to yell about Kingdom Hearts for about 5 minutes at the same time, so we're going to be talking over each other a lot. That's
fine. It'll be great. So yeah, that's next week. But in the meantime, I do want to ask a favor. Every one of us that's listening knows somebody that needs to hear this podcast. Maybe they don't know they need to hear this podcast. In fact, if they probably don't, because you know how that all works. Here's what I want you to do. If you're listening, I want you to find that person and have them listen. Send them a link, get them to subscribe, do whatever you got to do that's nice. And encourage them to listen because the three of us are fun to listen to. I like to think so. And a bigger audience means more access. You know the drill. It's a standard issue thing. If you don't want to do that, at least leave us a review on iTunes or wherever else you listen to the podcast. Both of those things would be the best Christmas gift you could possibly leave us in the world. With the exception of one last thing, maybe join us in our Facebook community. That's engagefamilygaming.com/community. We have cool conversations every day, and we're a bunch of active parents that talk about the games our kids play, and the games that we have played, and we have cool discussions. So, Amanda, it occurred to me that I never gave you an opportunity to tell people where they could find you on the internet.
Oh, I'm everywhere on the internet. All
So-
you have to do is Google my name. Actually, don't Google my
Yeah,
name.
don't
You probably
Google it.
find things that you don't want to find. So you can find me on Twitter. I am a prolific user of the Twitters. I'm at Amanda Farough. My last name is spelled Farough. And I'm on there daily. You can find me on superparent.com with my new column, Super Parenting. I just released our second column, I guess, of Super Parenting, where I am giving advice on how to talk to your kids about YouTube, because it's a very important topic. So that's where I hang out. And you can also find me, I'm on YouTube as well for Super Parent. I do Ready Player Mom, which is my Mixer stream. So that's mixer.com/superparent. I do that every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we just play games together. And they're really chill games that are usually rated anywhere between E and T. We never play anything that's, rated M or anything like that, because we want your kiddos to be able to sit down with you. And everything is very wholesome. There's no swearing. I'm just hanging out and playing video games and talking about it. So you can find me everywhere.
And it's worth noting that our audience will be aware of that article from Super Parent because I shared it in our Facebook community. Again, that's engagefamilygaming.com/community. Linda, you are mom. What is it? What is your Twitter handle again? I follow you. I can't. I'm so confused.
Okay, so my Twitter handle, and I want to make sure I say it right because it's a little weird. It's Mom's Stories. So the two things that are plural because, things were taken that I wanted, like they do. So it's Moms_stories. So that's my Twitter handle. I'm trying to be more active on Twitter, trying to cross-post a little more. I'm more prolific on Instagram, and that handle is DragonRose720. So you'll find all of the wonderful renovation pictures photo-logged, plus lots of game photos, occasional classroom photos of my first grade classroom, sans the children. I'm very careful I don't take any photographs of my students that get posted online. But you might see my chickens that hatched in the spring from science and things like that. So fun stuff.
And everybody knows where to find me because I am the brand. So if you look for me, you can find me. That's at EF Gaming on Twitter or Engage Family Gaming, literally everywhere else. So, folks, this has been an awesome episode. Thank you very much for listening to us. We will see you next week for video game time. And until then, don't forget to get your family game on. We'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Boom, we did it. We did the thing.
Thank you for listening to Engage, a family gaming podcast. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week.